1947, we have received and analyzed between 1 and 2,000 reports that have come to us from all kinds of sources.
Fleet of them. What's on the ASA? My gosh. That's not an LNS though, is it? It's not. I do have an LNS, man. Well, if there's no thing.
We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
How many?
Quite a number.
Unidentified Anomalous Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 19 of the Unidentified Anomalous Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Digby Tom, and the other host is, as always, my very good friend and colleague, Tom Cortex Zero. Tom, how are you this week? I know it's been a tough one for you. Tom's been suffering with COVID.
Yeah, I'm still kind of recovering. Definitely on the downside of it, but it was pretty brutal at one point. My voice still isn't quite what it's usually supposed to sound like. It's weird how like my creativity and my motivation were just completely dulled out. There's like brain fog associated with it. I had a lot of symptoms that would be associated with a fever, but then you go and check your temperature, and my body temperature didn't really fluctuate that much from normal. So it's just it was weird. My mom is really sick right now. She's coughing her lungs out downstairs right now. All three of us in the house tested positive for it. So I was out of work for a few days. So I'm recovering slowly but surely. But there's irritability. So if anybody thinks that I look a little wishy-washy and such today, you're right.
He's looking a bit pale and clammy.
And I've also added another ring light, so I'm a little brighter today. It's a little bit more even in the lighting department.
I'm glad you're here with us. It was touch and go there for a while whether you were going to make it, but I'm sure you would have made it anyway. But it's a pleasure as always to have you on. And we've got a really good episode this week. So we've got Thomas Bavinder joining us in about half an hour from the newly formed European Crash Retrieval Initiative. So we are the first people that they've ever had an interview with. So this is a world exclusive for us, which is very cool. Exciting.
Very flattered by that.
These people are backed by Avi Loeb and then Tim Gallaudet, if I'm saying his name right. Everybody says it completely differently. There's some real big names, big players in the field that are supporting this initiative. One of the guys who's the founder of it as well is also involved a lot with the guys over at Nanu, who've got their app coming out later on this year. Tom and I are going to be fortunate enough to have a little sneak peek of that soon. And we've got Hollywood and Sean Cahill coming on to talk about that once we can align our schedules. So we've got some really good stuff coming up on the show today. Really looking forward to speaking to Thomas and seeing what their ideas behind the initiative are. We've had a good week, though, Tom. I mean, you were ill and then your internet went down, but we had a meeting set up this week with a wonderful woman called Jules. She's a hypnotist. I can't call her a hypnotherapist like I call my wife because she's American and you guys have all kinds of regulations about therapy and all that sort of stuff. So she's a hypnotist, but she studies and she specializes, in past life regression and other forms of regression. She's also done loads of work with people who are abductees, and we've been having a wonderful conversation with her this week about the possibility of doing something on the show, which seems to be materializing nicely. Originally, Tom and I were hoping to get an abductee on to come on the show and do a live hypnotherapy, whatever you want to call it, session on the show. We're just working out the logistics of that right now. Jules wants to do a day-long private session with whoever we choose to participate, which is fair enough because she wants to make sure that their mental well-being is key and that they feel comfortable with her. So we're organizing that. And although she's happy to come on the podcast, we can't expect anybody to give up an entire day of their life without some financial compensation. So we're just looking at different ways that Tom and I can raid the piggy bank to make sure that we can pay for somebody to get that day's session with Jules first. And I think everybody will agree that it's the most important way that we can go about this to make sure that whoever it is, the volunteers for that show, is looked after the way that they should be. And that is very, very clear. But we do have some good news, because in the meantime, while we try to figure that out, Jules has sent me an email today offering me the opportunity to be the guinea pig. So a week on Tuesday, I will be having a session with Jules myself for 3 hours going through regression, and she's agreed to let me film it. So I'm going to be filming it from both her side and my side. Don't worry, I won't put you all through the entire 3 hours of me being regressed, but we will be showing the highlights on the show. And I'm going to offer Jules the opportunity to come on that show when we play that session as well, so she can talk about what she does and how she can help anybody out there who is suffering. Perhaps believe they've been abducted, or they have been abducted, or whatever, or it's important to let people know that if they're suffering out there, that there are options for them and there is help out there for them. But in the meantime, you get to see me as being the guinea pig. So that will be not next week's show, but the week after we will be doing that. So I cannot wait. This is where I find out who I was in a past life or some other interesting stories. I won't edit it too
there was
much.
a post that I made about our interview with Jules. So there's quite a few people that heard about what happened, but now that we're here on camera and in person, like I had posted a video, you saw the video. I was driving and explained.
Yes.
Maybe not everybody knows what I'm referring to, but when we were on this Zoom call with her, another voice came through that we heard through our headphones. And it happened a couple times, and I had messaged Digby like in the background, and I'm like, "Did you hear that?" And now, we had just met her. There was nothing that we knew prior. We didn't know that it just so happens that she had another audio clip to share with us where this had happened before. It was the voice of a younger female, distinctly different than her own voice. And at one point, they were both talking at the same time. Now, look, I've seen all of I know all the counter arguments. I get that. I can't disprove them other than the ones where, like, her hands were in full view, so I know she didn't trigger like a clip in that moment, right? Could she have set something to a timer? Sure, but I gotta be honest. I don't think that's what happened. Like, I mean, when we were talking to her, she was very down to earth, very genuine, very friendly, warm, compassionate. I wasn't getting the sense that we were talking to somebody that was trying to fool us or trying to convince us of anything. Like, she wasn't
not for
in
a
the
second.
call to present paranormal evidence. That's not even what we were talking about. And then this happened. And it was very strange. Digby, you heard it. I heard it.
It was like I would say a young girl, and it sounded like a bit of a mumble.
But not a child, though. Like, younger, but
not
like a kid.
Kind of.
Maybe adolescent.
Yeah,
right?
adolescent. Do you know what's really funny though? And this was on a Zoom call, and actually, I thought we'd probably be talking to this woman for about half an hour or something, but it went over 2 hours. Well, it was an hour for Tom because your internet went down, and then you're like, "Oh, sorry, I missed it." And I was like, "Don't worry, we're still talking." But I was speaking to my wife about it. Now, bearing in mind, my wife is a hypnotherapist as well, so you're on some sort of different plane. You're in some sort of space to do that work. Yeah, similar to the way Jules probably is naturally. She seemed that way anyway. She seems like she was always connected. And my wife goes, I hear that when I'm on Zoom calls with clients, and when they're in that relaxed state, she goes, I'm just used to it now. This noise comes in and it sounds like a voice, and it's different all the time. But she says she hears it as well. So
Really?
I don't know if it's just like the microphones or something connecting to something else that becomes present in the room. If it's a glitch with Zoom, who knows? But yeah, Katie said that she's heard similar things herself. But it could be anything. It's anomalous. It's unexplained. Who knows? But the key point here is that Jules, we're really looking forward to having Jules on the show. I hope she's watching. If you are, Jules, welcome. And we really look forward to doing some work with her in the future.
And we're not
it's
here
a really
to-
exciting project for us, I think.
We're not trying to convince people of of anything. That's not why we're here. Like, we're here to explore these types of ideas and manifestations, occurrences, and such. You know, with everything that could fall under the phenomenon, that umbrella. You know, when I go, I'm like looking at all the comments about this on X, and you know, there of course are people with reasonable questions, but then there's the people that want to argue about it, like, oh, here you are with another story and no evidence. Like, look, I'm not trying to convince you of anything. I'm just telling you what happened. I didn't sign up for this with the sole goal of convincing people, right? Like, most times people need to figure some of these things out on their own, or they need to have their own experience in order for them to be convinced. So when I'm sharing a story like that, I'm just relaying it the best that I can, just like Digby is. You know, what we have to come to terms with, and we haven't yet, most people, you know, at least the general scientific community, there are phenomenon in this universe around us that seem to sit just outside of our measurement ability, right? Like, it's not something that you can put inside of a glass tube and then scan. You can't use an electron microscope on it. But so many different people have had experiences with things of that nature. And anecdotal evidence is so important. I just made a post about that. Anecdotal evidence can serve as a starting point for scientific inquiry, right? Personal accounts or observations can lead to the formulation of hypotheses that can then be tested through more rigorous, systematic research methods. Anecdotal evidence is evidence, and again, if it's where I'm not here to post and share things and make videos about things in an attempt to get you to believe in these things, right? I'm just I'm speculating, I'm exploring, I'm researching, I'm investigating, and if you want to come along for that ride because you find these things interesting, the seat's wide open. If you're looking for, you know, for me to be you know, Gary Nolan, I'm not a scientist. You know, I'm an artist and I'm a musician. Like, I'm exploring these things, and if you don't believe them, that's fine. But I'm not the one that's trying to convince you. If you want to be convinced, you will be eventually. You'll have an experience. Something will pop up where you will begin to think differently. But there are just things in this universe that we cannot explain yet. I find them interesting. I talk about them. I make content about them.
I think that's the key thing, though, Tom, and that's a key reminder to everybody watching and anybody that engages with anything like this, especially online, is nobody presenting evidence has all the answers. All anybody's doing is passing on, or especially what Tom and I do, is pass on what we hear, what we find out, perhaps sometimes what we believe. But it's for you at home to make your own mind up. We're not here to feed you stuff to make you believe something. We're here to give you the evidence as we see it, and for you to make your own mind up.
Right.
I don't have the answers.
Leaders, right? I'm not trying to shove things down your throat.
Tom
like, if you don't believe this, Listen, I want people to also understand too, now that you're hearing my voice instead of just seeing me type words. If you're someone that comes on and comments on something of mine in disagreement with me, but you do it from a place of maturity and respect, I love you just as much as the person that agrees with me, because you're having the conversation and you're presenting your point of view. And even if it's different than mine, I respect you so deeply, so deeply for having the conversation and being mature about it. And that's all I ever look for, is like, if you disagree with me, if you're doing it from a place of respect, like, you have my full support and respect, even if we don't agree on something. I'm sure there's something that we probably do agree on, right? Like, when you do it that way, though, you stand out in the crowd to me as someone that I don't mind interacting with. There are plenty of people on X that don't agree with everything that I lean towards or what I share. Likewise, but guess what? I see them in spaces all the time. We have a good laugh. We have a good conversation because at the end of the day, we're just people living in this world trying to figure out why the hell we're here and where we're going. That's it.
Agreed.
That's all it is at the end of the day.
Agreed. Now, we have Thomas coming on in a little under 15 minutes. We're going to rush through some of the news for this week. There isn't that much. We're purposefully ignoring the Christopher Mellon arguments on Twitter because, quite frankly, life is too short. So we'll just...
we're not beating the dead horse. I mean, we would be beating a dead horse to talk about that or the Fitzpatrick thing. Like, I'm tired of hearing about Fitzpatrick at this point. Like, or Kirkpatrick, excuse me. I didn't mean to say that. Kirkpatrick. Like, I get the op-ed, all that. Everything that's been said that could be said about that has been said. I don't hate the guy. I just think he's a company man. That's, you know what I mean? Like, he's trying. I don't know. He's a really smart guy. I'm not. That's not the aspect of this that I'm personally like invested in or investigating. All I can say is that I wish people wouldn't give him such a damn hard time, because perhaps he's just trying to do his job, right? And maybe he's just stuck between a rock and a hard place. Like, there's ways to go about it, and there's ways to press people for inquiry and such. But
talking of pressing, Tom, I'm going.
Is he one of my favorite people in the world? No. There's things that he's...
I'm pressing the button, Tom.
I disagree. Yeah, go ahead. Hit the button. Press the button.
Beyond the mundane.
Tom, man, I know you're feeling ill. You can. It's like there's a fire in your belly today, my friend. There is a fire in your belly. I like it. It's feisty. Right, let's start with let's face it, it's not been the busiest week of UAP UFO news this week. It hasn't been. But we've dragged the bottom of the ocean to find something for you this week.
Wow, what a way to say it. That's really cool. I like that. I like that. Yeah, it's a good week. It was a good week for me to pick to get ill, right? Like,
yeah, absolutely. You haven't missed much, but we'll catch you up now.
Interest in aliens, UFOs. Congress recently held historic hearings on Capitol Hill on the matter. Whistleblower David Grush has claimed that these hearings fell short of sharing all the government knows with the American people, going so far as to claim the government is in possession of actually non-human craft. So we'd love to know your thoughts on this. If you think there's UFO intelligence that should be declassified, rather than having this guarded closely, whatever it is, by military and U.S. intelligence agencies.
All I can say is if they got it, it's one of the first questions I'm going to ask, and I'm going to want to see the little fellas and their spacecraft and then disclose everything that I can. I'll disclose everything to the American public unless there's some really compelling reason not to, which I don't anticipate. But I read the article about that whistleblower who's still in the military, and it just seemed very credible to me, but I don't know. I don't have any way of assessing it, and I guess they're taking it seriously on Capitol Hill, which I'm very happy about. I think everybody's curious about this. Everybody would love to know whether we have company neighbors in the universe. It's really exciting. That's the kind of thing I think we should share with the American people.
Simple but powerful statement. Very.
Absolutely. And, it starts off almost like he's making a joke, but then actually what he says is actually quite profound afterwards.
Absolutely. I look, I think we can simplify this and try to get people at least on the same page in spirit. we as a civilization on many occasions have sent probes out into space to explore. Mars is a perfect example. Pathfinder, Curiosity, which were amazing scientific achievements that were built by human beings. So, is it really so unbelievable and difficult to wrap your head around the idea that there have been other civilizations in the universe around us that found us and were like, "Hey, what's going on down there?"
Yeah.
And they came down to have a look, right? And is that and again, I know that's really simplifying it, and we could have an entire conversation about potential motives and such, but that's not the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm making is that if we are to believe, based on science and math, the number of habitable worlds that are apparently around us, even in our own galaxy, and how many of them may have intelligent life on them, just in our universe, right? We're just going to straight talk about the extraterrestrial hypothesis. It would be weird. It would be weirder for me to imagine that we haven't been visited at some point. And one of the reasons being the advent of the atomic bomb. When we detonated that bomb, the first one at Trinity, the Manhattan Project, God knows what type of signal that sent out, right? Like, there's a radiation associated with that, electromagnetic energy and such. Like, you think that wasn't possibly detected by a civilization who has very sensitive equipment that has the sensors to pick up on something like that? And then perhaps they came and investigated.
We also know that something like that has a reaction here on Earth. Obviously, we're setting up we're setting off a nuclear warhead or whatever, but that has an echo across the entire universe, and there's an opposite reaction to that action here. The other side of the universe, we know
Right, we
that
could
we
have
know
killed
that
organisms
things are
in like
connected.
a dimension
You
that's
just
layered
don't
right on
know.
top of us. We just but we just don't know. And is it so wrong to speculate about that?
It's never wrong to speculate.
Right.
People don't speculate enough. That's why you've got so many people that just go on living their lives completely blind to everything that's going on around them and everything that's happening. And they can't see the life that they're living in at the moment and how wrong it is. That's the problem with our world at the moment. That's probably one of the reasons why they want to push back on disclosure, is because actually when you start broaching this subject, you realize an awful lot of other things about life that aren't correct and that could be
I've also found that the internet can be a very mean place. Like, there was a comment I read earlier, right? And I do want to actually quickly mention for my own personal reasons, because normally I don't give this type of thing the time of day. But there was some account where it looks like that maybe they're out of Korea, and that they have to translate their posts to communicate with English-speaking people. And they were like, I went to your YouTube, which they spelled wrong, and I can tell that you do drugs. And that bothered me specifically because I take pride in the fact that I have been stone cold sober for a decade after having watched many of my friends die. And I had my own issues as well. When you go to my YouTube channel or go to my page and go to my content, you're not seeing someone that's on drugs. What you're seeing is someone who's not afraid to speculate about anything, someone who's open-minded, who's trying to think outside of the box, and I will stand on that until I'm dead. And I don't need drugs to get there. It's just me.
Yeah. Well, give me a bit of DMT, I'll try that any day of the week.
That really reshaped the way that I looked at reality. I did that in a ceremonial setting under supervision. It's not like I stuck it in a tinfoil bowl out in the middle of the woods and was just like, "Oh, let's go, guys!" Like, it wasn't like that. Yeah.
So I had another conference call earlier this week with a guy over in Australia, and at the same time, a guy in Nepal. and it was about arranging a meeting with a guru over in Nepal for this consciousness documentary that Tom and I are working on, which was a really, really great conversation. But he was talking to me about DMT as well, and the way that it's used to connect to a higher plane of existence and everything like this.
Yeah.
This documentary, when Tom and I wrapped on it, it was supposed to be done in a week or so. It was only going to be a short little information documentary like the one I did the other week, but it's turning into something a lot bigger. We've got loads of people contributing now and some really interesting voices coming through for this. So it's going to be a longer documentary. We'll premiere it here on the show. Yeah, it's going to be, but you're going to have to bear with us because we're really putting the groundwork in on this one. Look, we have other news, but we've overtalked a little bit. So what we'll probably do is move over to Thomas in a second from the European Crash Retrieval Initiative. And then we'll come back after we've spoken to Thomas and we'll go over the last few bits of the news for the week and do that then. So Thomas, we will be with you very shortly after a quick word from this week's sponsor, which is us. Are you looking to connect your brand with a passionate and engaged audience? Look no further. Here on the Unidentified Anomalous podcast, we are more than just a podcast. We're a community. Each week we dive deep into the UAP phenomena, bringing our listeners compelling content that keeps them coming back for more. With thousands of dedicated listeners and growing, our show offers a unique platform for your brand to shine. Whether you're launching a new product, building brand awareness, or simply looking to connect with a dynamic audience, we've got the perfect space for you. Don't miss out on this chance to grow alongside a show that is on the rise and be part of our journey. Interested? Let's talk. Connect with us at uapodcast23@gmail.com and join us here at the Unidentified Anomalous Podcast, and let's make an impact together.
The Fresh Prince of UFOs.
That's me, baby.
That's it. So I would like to introduce our guest, Digby. You ready?
Go for it.
I'm so excited for this. Like, I really am. I've been thinking about it all week. So joining us today is Thomas Bovinder. He is the project coordinator for the European Crash Retrieval Initiative, ECRI for short. It's an effort led by UAP Sweden, which he co-founded, and Oceanic team, with the support of the VASCO Project and an interdisciplinary group of civilian scientists and experts. The project has the ambition, and it's a big one, of mapping and analyzing alleged UFO, UAP crash sites on European soil, both contemporary and historical. They have the support from several eminent scientists and public figures that you may know, including Avi Loeb and Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet, which I also don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right. Gallaudet.
Who knows?
One of these days we'll get him on the show and ask him himself, right? So without further ado, we would like to bring Thomas onto the show. Mr. Bovinder, welcome to the Unidentified Anomalous podcast. How are you, sir?
I'm fine, thank you, and I'm very grateful to be on your show. This is like so special. It's our first public appearance, basically, outside of Sweden. So, yeah, thanks a lot.
Well, welcome. I'm a big advocate for having people on that aren't American because, as I say all the time, we can't let the Americans have all the fun. So it's personal. It's personal for me, and it's a great pleasure to have you on the show, Thomas. Thank you so much for taking the time out to come on and talk about your amazing initiative. And I know it's new, I know it's fresh, but everybody out here would really love to know what your plans are and where you see this going. So let's start with what's the background of the mission of ECRI? What got you into this?
Yeah, it's a great question actually. And looking back, I realize it's been something that has been growing from many points, many people, many beliefs that actually disclosure needs to come from more places than the US. And in some ways, I think we have already seen countries that actually confirm the UFOs and UAPs as real. Brazil, for example, and I mean, we need to catch up. We need to catch up with it. So me and Alex, we co-founded UAP Sweden maybe just a year ago, and it grew and attracted a lot of like-minded people, basically. And in this movement, which is basically just no difference between all of us. We are just like shoulder to shoulder, like sharing our experiences with each other. So in this network spreading out, we got in contact with, for example, Beatriz Villarreal, astrophysicist, and meeting her, having her on my podcast. We felt like we connected in this mission to actually do something, be the change that you want to see. So we just like got this in our head, and Beatrice was saying, okay, so could we find crashed saucers, basically, crashed UFOs, UAPs, and this is something that she has been doing, and she is doing it right now in different projects, scientific projects. So it felt like really, really exciting to have her supporting us as a like a grassroots organization, bringing the scientific people and all her contact network into this big project. So yeah, that was basically the start of it.
So how are you envisaging that this is going to work? Okay, so I mean, one thing you're doing is investigating historical crash sites, correct? But then the other side is also more current. So forgive me, if you're presented with a situation where you get information about a current crash retrieval site, or a current crash site, or a more recent site, what is your mission? How does that look? How do you achieve your goal?
Yeah, so basically we are very careful of actually working out a protocol and like a different new approach to this, because we believe that we have to share, and we have to use like different competences from so many people and areas of expertises. So, for example, as you mentioned, Tom, we have Dennis from Oceanic, and he is a seasoned adventurer, you can say, and a deep sea explorer, or at least the Baltic Sea explorer, finding this, the Baltic Sea anomaly. It's a quite fascinating find, to be honest, and it has attracted the world's attention already, and instantly, I must say. And of course, we need equipment, and we need to act fast when we decide on what to act on. But first, we need to have many minds with different points of view in the first stage, which is actually to analyze and consider what cases are the most probable and the best ones to actually go for. So we are in this stage right now that we are we got some cases that actually have been reported to the webpage that Beatrice VASCO, her VASCO homepage. I hope we can add the link to that. So we are looking into several cases right now, and we have like criminal researchers, and we have psychologists, we have murder investigation, former murder investigation experts in this, like the terrorist attack kind of people, highest level, and we also have the common sense people that sometimes just bring the most brilliant ideas and have you thought about this, that kind of thing. So by sharing this together, we try to find the one case that we really want to go for, for the moment. And also we wish to spread out in a network to have, the crash retrieval teams in all the countries basically that are interested. So we welcome everyone out there to contact us and just join this mission. Basically, we believe that let's see this disclosure as a big barrel, like a wooden barrel, and if there's one hole in it, it's easy to just plug it in, and it's stopped. So disclosure and like the leak or the knowledge will not come out to the people. But if we have 1 million holes, if the sun is just shining on this barrel, it will crack in all kind of pieces and parts, and then it will be impossible basically to try to hinder this to come out. And yeah, we really believe in the network step. So the next step is also to actually spread out. This is what you are doing and helping us with it right now, and we're so grateful to build a network. Yeah, because we want, the people is the power, and we want to give the people back the power. Yeah.
When we spoke to you the other day, we kind of touched on the fact that it's kind of up to the grassroots to make this happen at this point. We can depend on government as much as we want, but at the end of the day, if we put the power in our own hands, they say teamwork makes the dream work. So that's why I like what you guys are doing. It almost sounds like you're trying to bring a forensic approach to it, like a crime scene investigation, like CSI, where like you get a report, and I can picture individuals going out there taking it seriously. They're wearing gloves, there's equipment, we're trying not to contaminate the area. And would it be fair to say that you guys are trying to treat this with actual scientific respect, maybe?
Yeah, for sure. And we are looking into like historical efforts to do similar things and take learning from that, but also try to incorporate new ideas. And we have also better equipment right now, and we can rent like penetrating radars and stuff that can go deeper than they usually did. So, and also we are considering, we have the social medias, and we can have people on site just taking pictures, just observing what's going on. And in this process, we might also see, what activities is actually going on in these areas, right? So, yeah, and we have also this really nice competence in documentary. We are in dialogue with different media people in Sweden, like you guys, podcasters, but also very, like public, well-known people, and also they can spread the word basically. Emil Marshak is a really talented documentary filmer, and he can join the site and basically live stream things, also as like a protection for the team going out there.
Right.
So, yeah, we think about, just now we're in a learning process. So the first couple of cases will be, giving us so much intel and data, what we're doing, that's good, and what we need to get more expertise on. Yeah.
Well, surely it's all about data collection, and the more data that you have, the better that you can assess the situation. So as you go along, as you develop, as you have more past data, it'll be more relevant in the future, if you see what I mean. Paul's put a question up here. Do you want to examine historical events, or do you want to examine more current ones? This is a great question, because if you're examining a historical event, what are the different mechanisms that you use opposed to if you're going to go and examine something more current? Because just to understand the benefits of going back to visit previous crash sites.
Yeah, there's a big difference, I think. And historical cases, for example, they they might have been excavated or investigated several times. And also there's a risk of actually contamination on the site, and it could be deliberate also, so we are picking up things and pieces and debris that are actually, planted there. So this is kind of a tricky thing, but what we're really looking for is to have this network covering and finding the actual, real-time crashes that are happening right now. We know they're happening, and we want to. Those are the most interesting cases for sure. But as I said, with modern technology, like mud in the sea bottoms of lakes and stuff, we could perhaps find interesting things that previously didn't, come up in the research. For example, the ghost rockets here in Sweden, really early in the, you know those?
Very much so.
So many rockets just fell down, or I don't know, was meant to fall down in lakes all over the place. And we have had organizations looking for them, but not in a scientific way, basically.
So you guys bring that scientific rigor to this, which is really cool. This really lines up well with Diana Pasulka's appearance on Rogan just this past week, because she was talking about going out to a location where her and Gary Nolan were blindfolded, and then they were brought out there looking for materials and such. And I there's a repeating pattern that I hear about in some of these anomalous materials that I kind of want to throw your way, and I'm curious if this is maybe something that you guys would be looking for or have found already or have gotten reports of. But it sounds like one of the telltale signs that like, say, a piece of material may be a metamaterial or something anomalous is that when examined under, say, a very powerful electron microscope, we'll use that as a good example, that it appears that it's been layered basically from the atoms up, which we don't have the technology to do, but they're able to see that, like, as when they go real deep, that it has been very specifically engineered at an atomic level from the ground up. But not only that, but it shows indications that it was done so in like a zero gravity environment. So I guess I'm curious, like, what constitutes an anomalous material, like, according to your guidelines? Like, what are you guys looking for specifically when it pertains to, like, what the materials are made out of and how they function and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the the structure could be a very important indication, because you have the magnesium, aluminium, that is all, most of the times like the normal, and I think the aluminium is kind of the most common metal we have basically here. So yeah, I hear what you say, and to be able to determine this, because this is not my competence, we have this plan to spread out what we find. As I said, this is not to be kept in a locker somewhere and making money of it. This is all pro bono. This initiative of ours, all of us, right? So we will spread it out to as many institutes and facilities as possible, so we can actually gather in different analysis reports to see, and also learn more about it. But right now we have no material so far, since we're just in the startup basically.
Right.
Yeah, of course, and that's really important for everybody to realize, is this is a very new initiative, and it's one of the reasons why we're so excited to have you on the show, actually, is to be here at the beginning for this, because I think Tom and I can both agree we really believe in what you're doing and wish you every success. There's two questions that I have to follow up from what you just said. Is, this is pro bono, but what funding mechanisms do you have available to you? Because although all these people are going to be willing to give up their time, as I would, if I was in Europe, I would happily give up my time. I'm sure there's many people that would.
Agreed.
There are expenses, there are costs, there are machines that you're going to need to hire and things like this. What funding mechanism do you have behind you to help you achieve your goals? And is there any way that anybody that's watching can help you in that way? And the other one was, upon retrieving metamaterials and things like this, which I'm sure you will do along the way as you go on your mission, how are you going to disseminate the information from those metamaterials to academic groups to enable them to analyze them? Is it going to be open source? Are you going to allow this information out freely, or are you going to work with select groups? Are you tied in with Avi Loeb? Is he, So I think those are my two main questions.
Yeah. Those are great questions, actually. And well, let's start with the last one. So we don't think that information can be protected, basically. So we are considering the findings that we will find to be open source, basically. Yeah. It will be like, I take some things and I go to the university, basically, to make it, be safe, come safely there. Personal delivery, I would say, of course. And also, the question of spreading it out is still something that we need to look into. It depends on what we find. Is it just a small piece? Is it like Earth samples? Or is it something big, right?
Yeah, of course.
The jackpot.
Yeah,
maybe
that's what we all hope for.
Yeah, man. And I mean, perhaps we can't move it. Then it's just a question of putting all the media people there, and you have the what do you call it, the Crash Commission here in Sweden. We have spoken to them about the rules and such, about if an airplane comes down and crashes, there are rules, of course, but
Right.
also they say there are no things. They have no system or rules for UFOs, and they're not interested in like astronomical bolides or meteors or something like that. So basically, we are not doing anything illegal. But of course, if there's a crash site and it has been sealed off, so it's not non-public place anymore, then we can't go. So it's a question of acting fast and having the network really spread out to have people on site, like local people, us, basically.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. So, sorry, Tom, you go ahead.
Yeah, no, because this actually ties into what I was going to ask him. My buddy Zio says, "Are you prepared for backlash from less forward-facing government agencies?" Because I wanted to ask you, do you have any concerns that being so open with these, potential materials and such, that you may run into a situation where a government agency may come in and say confiscate a sample and you never see it again and you don't get to examine it because they're trying to keep the lid on this? Like, do you worry about that type of thing?
Sure. I mean, they may do that, and sure, we just keep on finding something else, because now it's so many people out there. So sure, try us out.
Paul's asking, do you have support from
attitude.
air traffic controllers in the EU for radar data? I mean, that's actually a really good point, because actually, if you did have somebody on the inside.
Yeah. What was that question again? I didn't see it.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. No, it was, do you have support from the air traffic controllers in the EU for radar data?
Not right now, but we have some good connections. So probably in the future we will, try to cover it. Yeah.
It's clear to me that you need to set up or expand a network across the EU, because the more people that are aware of you, the more that you're going to get this information. You're going to get it quicker. You're going to be able to act on it quicker. Because let's face it, you're up against the clock here. If you want to go and investigate something before somebody else turns up there, you need the information before anybody else. So, I mean, there's people watching this. I mean, there's people watching in the States. There's people watching in Europe as well. But if you're in Europe and you want to help, or you've seen something, what is the mechanism for those grassroots people to get in contact with you so that you're able to jump on that information? What's the best way that they can do that?
Yeah, send us an email basically, and maybe we can just add the homepage in the end, ECRI Initiative .org. So basically, just give us an email, and we'll get back to you as quickly as possible. And then, yep, there's the link. That's good. The email.
I was prepared.
Yeah. And also, we have this report page where we are asking for specific questions, basically, so we can sort out, is this something that we, think is serious enough? Yeah, because we will get many different varieties of qualities of the reports, basically. Yeah.
Well, this is the other point as well, is that's going to be a real challenge for you, because you will have people out there with valid information that really want to get it to you. But you'll also have, as Tom and myself have both experienced this week through different channels, trolls who just want to mess up your day and ruin your vibe. Tom
Make
and
you
I
feel
have
more
both been
sick than you
victims of
already
that.
feel.
I was a couple of years ago on a British TV channel called Four in a Bed, and it was replayed on TV last week. So I had the joy of trolls messaging me on my private Facebook account again this week, which was fantastic.
That message was hilarious.
Yeah, it was. Sure. Anyway, and Tom has also had some backlash from some posts he's had this week. So with something that you're doing like this is going to be really tricky for you, is especially when you get a message in and you've got to make that decision. Is this legitimate? Is this a troll? Is this somebody having a laugh? Is this somebody up at 2:00 in the morning with nothing better to do? What goes into deciding whether something is verifiable or not? Do you wait for multiple people to report the same thing, the rule of three, for instance, or do you have other mechanisms at your disposal or guidelines set out to, cut the wheat from the chaff, as it were?
And so basically, I won't say too much about how we do this. But we have some really brilliant minds in our analytic teams. So as I told you before, they come from so many different points and qualities. So basically, we trust that instinct that we will get from those analyses. This is a fun thing for us. So we just, welcome everyone. And we think that, personally, I think that what you attract, what you want and think about, that we can actually get good reports. If you have that focus, we will kind of welcome that, and we will have that gravitate towards us. We won't think too much about trolls and problems and, this can't be done and that this, it's impossible. We all had like parents and people around us telling us this is not something you can do, and this is not how we go forward, right? So we choose our reality, and reality right now is that we are seeing the start of disclosure in so many parts of the world, and we are too many. The trolls are not so many. So
that's true. We're the majority at this point. I'm curious, because of what you guys deal with specifically crash retrievals. Are there any particular cases, historical cases specifically in Europe, that stick out to you as being either the most credible or the most interesting? I'm curious what your knowledge base is on cases that have already happened, but ones that you personally adhere to as being valid.
Yeah, that's a good question, and we are so excited about finding out more, because a lot of this information is kind of local. Sure, we have the famous Roswell cases and so on that we all know about, but now we're actually picking up some really interesting bits and pieces about local Roswells, so to speak.
That's
And
really cool.
so we're really eager to follow some of these threads, basically. Yeah, and we do encourage people to just come and tell us, and we can help you out if we can't go there, and we don't have the the means to do that, because as I said, we are just pro bono. We're taking the time and money from our own pockets. We will at least gather information and also create the network, and sharing things. And speaking about that question you asked about the how we finance this.
Yes, that's what I was about to come to.
Yeah. We are right now doing this, from our own pockets, basically, and with the equipment that we already have in our team. But we will also need to rent stuff, and we will need travel costs covered, and so on. So we are actually looking into, someone who are willing to fund us, basically. Yeah, that's right.
So we should be expecting a GoFundMe page or something similar coming from you guys, so we can show your support. Is that correct?
Well, also there's the question of if you take some funding, it's also that it must be without any rules,
Sure.
So they don't say, okay, now we need to have the material and we need to, we can tell you what to do. So this must be someone with the same vision as us, basically, that it must be for everyone. This is shared and it's for the best of the planet. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So this is basically going to have, this is like a crowdsourced, very much from the ground up effort to take some control and put it in the hands of people that care about this. And I, as an American, I'm personally very excited about the effort because it helps expand this conversation outward globally, which is what it should be. Like, look, it's really cool being from America, right? Like, I'm proud to be an American. It's a lot of the things that we've given the world and such, but the UFO situation has never been an American situation. It has always been a human situation, in my opinion. So I love the fact that you guys exist, because it takes this conversation and it brings it to the doorsteps of other people outside of the United States. With that quite frankly, like the UK is a perfect example. They need to catch up, right? Like it feels like that the government in the United Kingdom doesn't want to touch this with a 12-foot pole, whereas we're moving along at a slow but steady pace here in the United States with bumps in the road. But then you have Brazil, who I really wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if Brazil was actually the first country to disclose. Like, they're very open about this conversation. Peru, South America and such. So what you guys are doing is not just important for what it actually is that you're doing, but it's expanding the conversation. And to me, that is one of the single most important aspects of your initiative at this point.
I think the key thing, you were mentioning the UK there. I think the key thing with the UK is to remember it's not about them needing to catch up. It's about the fact that they're already there, and they are just so much more tight-lipped about this whole thing. I mean, you've got Prince Philip, God rest his soul, whatever you think of the royal family. He was a big proponent of the UAP phenomena.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Say that he had a hand in it. There is secret societies in the UK that are older than America.
That is absolutely true.
Yeah. So I would say that the UK government and royal family are more than knee deep in this subject, and the fact is that the mechanism in the UK just works so well that they don't even entertain the discussion, but they know an awful lot more than they let on, as I'm sure it is the same with other countries as well. But we have to remember also, if we look at historical events, if we look at historical sightings, it was Europe, or the 1930s crash site in Magenta, Italy, other sightings across Europe. I mean, God, the first guest that we had on our show, Tom, when we started our show was, talking about UFOs, UAPs during the Second World War, the Foo Fighters, everything like this.
Talking about Graham.
Europe, Yeah, Graham
Who's
Randall.
an expert on these matters.
Absolutely.
He would be
And
a great guy for Thomas to get in
yes,
touch with.
absolutely.
I think we should hook them up. He is. I mean, can you think of anybody else in this field that knows more
I
about
know nobody
World
who's more
War II
historic.
sightings and such? I mean, he not only I mean, he's such a nice guy too, but he is a wealth of knowledge. He's written several books that some of them there's so much information there that focuses on you know, UFO situations, we'll say, in Europe and in the United States, of course, too, but during World War II. Yeah, we should definitely hook them up because he's
Graham
such
is
a wealth of
fantastic.
knowledge.
In fact, Vinny on the show last week was actually commenting about the fact that he was privileged enough to go to an archive in London with Graham and see how he does his research. And he was just blown away and inspired by the way that this man does his research. It's fantastic. But, you know, just quickly, just jumping back to what I was saying about, you know, historical UFO sightings, let's remember that until the USA started dicking around basically with nuclear weapons, all the sightings that were being reported prior to that, before Roswell in 1947, which was down the road from a nuclear testing facility, the reporting was coming from Europe and surrounding areas. So, you know, there's a rich history of this in Europe, and maybe there's something telling in that. But because before that sort of stage where America showed its strength and its ability to be a superpower in that sense, that show of might, if we look at historical records and we go back in time, Europe was the powerhouse of the world.
Absolutely.
Every great empire ever formed had come out of Europe, really. With
Persians, the British.
You know, yeah, exactly. Romans, everything like that. So is it any wonder that the historical UFO sightings came from Europe and how now the UFO sightings come from America? And for all we know as well, Russia and China. But let's face it, we don't have extensive access to their media. So maybe the case is here is the fact that the sightings go where they need to go. So the sightings are where it's happening. So if there's something going on that an extraterrestrial race needs to keep an eye on, they send things there. Like we've seen footage of recently with Jeremy Corbell releasing this footage of the UFO, the jellyfish. That's over an active war zone. Maybe that's what happens. Maybe they go where the power is, where the struggle is, where the conflict is. And that's maybe why we're seeing more in the States right now. Sorry, Tom. You got a bit of conflict going on over there.
Yeah, politically speaking, definitely. Definitely is.
Yeah, there'll be UFO sightings over Texas next week. Mark my words.
Yeah, no kidding. Specifically at the border, right?
Yeah, quite.
It's crazy. I'm curious too.
Point.
Alongside of that, Thomas, what do you expect to find? Do you think that when you guys start getting your hands on materials, that you'll find like little pieces, big pieces? Like, I'm curious, like, where does your mind go when you think of potentially finding materials out at these crash sites? What do you see in your mind's eye? What do you expect to find?
Yeah, so speaking about, you know, material things, I think what we will find is something exciting, like something, what you mentioned before, like the isotopical ratios will be like off the charts or very unprobable to be human. But also, I think that we can find orbs, for example. I think we have plenty of those around. I've seen them myself. And that was actually the starting point actually for my my journey into this and founding the UAP Sweden. So I've seen them with my own eyes, me and my daughter. They didn't come down though, but I also believe that this non-human intelligence presence has also a big role to play, and they may well, plan something for us, basically.
I was
Yeah.
getting to that. That's really interesting because
if you just open your arms and say, okay, here we are open to this, it's something for the people, I think it's a good strategy, actually. And to have your heart open and just try to believe that things can actually be changed. And that's, not set your mind on a specific thing like, oh, it must be a saucer, it has to be this or that. I do believe that these things that we witness are physical. Yeah, I think they are. But I think also they are different from what our laws of this world actually, understand right now. So they might have more of a mind or a will, so to speak. And well, it will be just a fascinating journey for sure to find out what we can find. Yeah,
I love that comment though. The fact that it's almost like because you have set it up, you will be able to find something, and it goes along very well with something that I believe in, the fact that if you ask the universe for something, it will be provided, or if you manifest. And I'm a big believer in manifestation, more so in the last 2 years than I have ever been.
I've seen it.
I've recently gone on this journey. Tom and everybody watching knows that I've gone on this journey. I quit my job. I shut down my pub and hotel in the UK. Left all that behind, gone out of whim. My wife has recently retrained as a hypnotherapist, and she's fantastic, and she's doing an amazing job. It gave us the freedom to leave the UK so that she could work remotely and enable us to travel and see more. But it also gave me the ability to reinvent myself and do something that I wanted to do. And recently I've gone, well, I believe in this show, but not only do I believe in this show, I believe in the work that I can do. I've fallen in love with editing and interviewing people. So without a hope of knowing how I could possibly make money from it, I just went, this is what I want to do. So I'm going to do it. And as I do it, the options will come to me. The money will come to me. The ability to earn will come to me. And it was a bit dicey for a while there. And I was thinking, something's going to have to break soon. And then this week it did, and now doing, after doing the short documentary that I did for the show a couple of weeks ago, I've now got my first paid for documentary for a charity back in the UK, which is amazing. And I'm loving doing it. It's challenging work because it's for cast genetic disorders. So I'm editing footage with a lot of the kids going through an awful lot of problems, which is quite difficult, but it's
a really
rewarding.
good cause.
It's a really, really good cause. If you have a chance, anybody, please look up Cask Research Foundation UK and make a small donation. Yeah, I'm loving doing that. And then also I got a phone call from somebody the other day who had seen the show and reached out to me, sent me an email and said, I love your work there. And we're looking at setting up a podcast and we'd like to pay you to produce it. And I'm like, fantastic, great. So within a week, I've got paid for documentary. I've got a producer job for somebody else's podcast dealing with natural health and how your body has the ability to heal itself, and the medical system's all a load of wacko. But that's something for their podcast, not this one.
And I get to make their theme song.
And Tom's going to make their theme tune,
which is that came out of nowhere. It's always a blessing, right? To be able to work with other people. That's the way I look at it. That's why
Tom, whatever I do, Tom will always be with me. But
right, I'm always exactly.
You are. Tom and I are a team. We don't go anywhere
we're
without each other virtually. But it goes to my point, and actually what you said is just so true. Just simply by the fact that you guys have set this up, and the fact that you're a group of like-minded people that want to achieve that goal, that's a group of people that are manifesting the same thing. Think of the power of that. So if you want to find something, I trust me, you will. I completely and wholeheartedly believe you will.
Thank you. And that means so much, because if we share this vision, like the more minds that think about something, it will just get stronger. And also another part of this is that you've seen historically people putting themselves like in a hierarchy. I'm the leader, I'm the top. And then it's so easy for other forces that don't like this to just pinpoint this, scare the person, or, bribing her or him, and then it's gone, right? But now if we just stand shoulder by shoulder, and if someone is, that needs to do something else, it's no problem. Someone else is just coming in and welcome to join the cause, and it will just keep on. It's such a great feeling.
I think what's great is that you guys coming together is a people's initiative, right? It's screw the government. Let's not sit around and wait for them to pull their fingers out of their backsides. We can do this, and maybe now is the time that disclosure does have to come from the people. True disclosure does have to come from the people, and it comes from initiatives like this. Because let's face it, how do we know when we trust what comes from our governments? Any governments around the world, and not necessarily speaking about the UK government, the Swedish government, the US government. Let's face it, I mean, just in this virtual room that we're in at the moment, we have 3 governments that are, are right up there with controlling their population and the people. So how do we know that we can trust them when it comes to UFO disclosure, but we don't trust them on other things? So disclosure has to come from the people. It has to come from mechanisms that we create ourselves that enable us to disseminate the truth to the general population, because otherwise we'll always just remain under the thumb of the people above us and have to believe what they tell us. So, disclosure, disclosure for the people.
Exactly.
100%. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. It could change a lot. And through your efforts with ECRI, it's a possibility you guys may stumble upon something that could potentially force the hand of one of these governments, where you're in control of the material, you're in control of the biologics if you happen to stumble upon something as extraordinary as that. And they would have no choice but to acknowledge the fact that you've made such a discovery. And then at that point, the ball's in your court. You're in control of the situation, not them. And as much as we would all probably love to be able to trust our governments, it's going to be a long time before we get to that place. There's the level of distrust among populations versus their governments is probably, I don't think it's ever been higher. I mean, really, it's at least in the United States, it's tremendous.
It's not
right
just
now.
there, man. It's everywhere. And Tom and I don't really like to touch on politics, but there is a general distrust of political groups all around the world, all around the globe.
Absolutely.
US, Canada, UK, every single where. And it's because the people are starting to realize that they've been lied to for so long. And the UFO, UAP subject is just another one of those subjects. Actually, it's not just another one of those subjects.
It's the biggest one.
Biggest. It's
It
the biggest. And
everything.
when you realize that they've known about it the whole time, and I don't mean since 1947, I mean the entire time, throughout history, throughout the entirety of human history, because that's really what we're talking about here. We look at past, religious texts and influences. It's everywhere, and it's just something that's been hidden from us for 2,000, 4,000 years, whatever, more. So it is time for the people to take responsibility for their own destinies. And it is time for the people to take responsibility for the truth and find the truth. We cannot wait for some government agency to dictate to us what the truth is. It's time for us to find the truth ourselves. And it's through groups like ECRI that we will find the truth. And, for that, I thank you. And I hope that more people out there are brave enough to put themselves out there and create initiatives like this that will really go towards serving the people and getting some truth.
Thank you. Can I just say something about that?
Absolutely.
Sure.
It's so amazing to have scientists, Anders Varell, Beatrice Villarreal, we have Avi Loeb, also, sharing on. So if you want to have a true disclosure, you need to do it scientifically, right?
Absolutely.
And the thing is, with scientists like that, we don't have that many CETI, search for extraterrestrial intelligence scientists, right? So we need scientists to see this and to actually have the courage to write the papers, including the NHA theory, or the possibility, right? The extraterrestrial possibility, the interdimensional possibility. However, I mean, even if it could previously mean that you might lose some, status or whatever it is, I think we are seeing a new beginning right now in terms of the scientific world as well. And some brave people are taking the lead here, and that's for sure. Beatrice Villarreal is one of them. We have the Soul Foundation that she's also really. She was part of the Soul Foundation invitation right now that we previously had, and she had a speech about her science research. And it's really, really important to have those kind of gatherings. So basically, I wish that all the groups in society can actually be just more accepting of this. And we need to speak to our neighbors, and we need to be not shy about what we actually have seen and what we have experienced, because
Absolutely.
it comes with you yourself. You have to change the person next to you, and then it will become, the avalanche that we are waiting for.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
The
Somebody's just
word
put in the
brave
comments.
rings true.
Somebody's just put in the comments here, connecting with Roy Herbert. Thomas, we must connect you with Roy. Roy was probably I think, what was it, Roy? Our second or third guest on the show?
He was the second guest on the show.
So Roy's a English guy. He's absolutely fantastic. He's a theoretical physicist, which is easy to say, and he deals with time dilation theory and everything, and he loves the UFO subject, and he is one of the most brilliant minds that Tom and I have ever had the pleasure of speaking to.
Wicked.
I'm going to put you in contact with him because I believe he would really love this initiative, and the more scientific minds that you have behind this, the better. We don't need more Neil deGrasse Tysons. We need more Roy Herberts and Avi Loebs in the world. People that are willing to do the actual science rather than just turn their head, go, I don't want that to be true, therefore it isn't, which is basically
it's about following the data, following the facts, following the information, and remaining. You can be skeptical, but be open-minded.
I call him Neil the Arse Tyson.
Yeah, we need people to peer review also, because we need that extra layer of credibility, right? And for that, we need to be many people accepting this. So and speaking about governments, I would also like to say that our organization is not aiming to create chaos or anything. We much prefer to have order, chaotic disclosure is not something positive. We all have kids and families, and old ones and dear ones. We all need the schools and the society to function, right? But we also need to move along this higher understanding, to be the guardians of this planet, not just humanity, but all the living things. And to do this, we need the technology, we need the insights, maybe not just the physical, inventions, but we need this other consciousness that is coming. We can feel it coming, many of us. And for doing that, for finding the physical crashed materials, that's one thing. But there's also a whole other field of actually growing into this disclosure. Yeah.
Amazing.
That's huge.
Man,
I can feel it coming.
I wish you every success with this. And I'm not in Europe anymore, but if you hear of anything in Morocco and you want me to go and have a look for it, I happily will.
You may as well be in Europe. You're right there.
I'm on the tip.
Close enough.
Don't throw away.
Tip. Absolutely. I could.
Close
Hey, I
enough.
could pop over to the south of Spain very easily. But my point is that I know that Tom would want to be involved more if he was closer. I'm happy to be involved. I'm sure there are a lot of people watching this on the European continent that
I'll do
want to get
anything
in
I can.
touch and help. I just hope that as you find out more and you guys go on this journey and you achieve all these great things, that you will come back to me and Tom and keep us up to date with what's going on, because we'd love to know. We're proud that we're here at the beginning for this, and I hope everybody agrees with us who's watching, and will go over and check out your website, which I'm going to put up again.
I love the logo for ECRI.
Yeah, it's
by the way.
great.
I think it's so cool. It's so simple, but it's like it's just I would get that on a t-shirt. Like I really would. I love it. It's so simple.
Yeah,
but
my
it's so
favorite's
cool.
the space one with
Yes,
you've got a few
yes,
different. You've got a few.
specifically
That's my
that on a
favorite.
black shirt would be
that's really
absolutely
sweet.
fantastic.
Thomas, X accounts, social media. How can people follow your progress? What have you got going on at the moment?
Yeah, so basically we have the homepage, and we will start putting information up there as we go along. We are a bit careful about not saying too much in advance of different projects or like cases that we're looking into, apparently. But we will spread the word, and we have an X account. We have right now it's the national Facebook through the UAP Sweden community, and unfortunately that's just in Swedish basically. But we will expand in other social medias, and I think what you're doing right now, helping us, is so great. And I would love to come back when I'm not saying if, I'm saying when we have more exciting stuff going on. Yeah, for sure.
Well, look, Thomas, in the meantime, if there's anything that myself or Tom can do to help, even if it's with, help with social media and creating awareness or anything like that, you've got our email addresses, you've got a way of getting in contact with us. Please do reach out. I really do mean it, because we would do anything that we can to help an initiative like this. We wish you every success in the world. I thank you so much for coming on today. We will let you get off now. I will email you later on to say thank you.
Yeah, man.
And Tom and I are going to carry on with the rest of the show now. But thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you again soon. Tom?
Yeah, thank you.
Over to you.
Stay in touch.
And the best of luck to you. Really, we're really rooting for you guys out here, because it means a lot to us what you guys are trying to do, and we will do anything big or small that we can to give you guys a hand out here. This is a family of people that wants the best for the future of this planet, and I can tell that your heart is very deeply invested in this, and that means a lot to me personally to see that. So thank you for being with us today, and we look forward to seeing your progress and to speaking to you again soon.
Yeah. Awesome. Take care, guys.
Brilliant, Thomas. Thank you so much. Peace. Take care. Bye-bye. Oh, what a great guy.
He's a nice guy. He's such, you could tell he's I don't know, man. Sometimes you could just tell with people that the passion is there.
And genuine,
right?
and honest.
Right. And he's very grounded too at the same time. You know what I mean? He's very contained, and it's like we have a very specific goal in mind. We have specific ways of how we want to achieve those goals. And again, you know, I know there's probably at least one person like, oh, well, have you got anything yet? But it's like they've just started out. But this is how these types of things have to go at this point, right? Like, this is how you start from the ground and work your way up to build something like this that can serve a purpose and do it in a way that hasn't been done before, the right way. You know, with scientific integrity and respect, which is what I really like about this too. And there's also those dare I call them spiritual intangibles that are there, right? Where he says, you know, a lot of us can feel something growing and moving and changing, and you know, some people don't like to admit that, or some people don't feel it, but some of us do. I'm one of them. You're one of them. A lot of the people in our chat feel the same way. That there is a
Excuse me.
change coming, and we're living through the paradigm shift, if you'd like to call it that.
I also
Something is
think that
going on.
there's a reason why I'm on this journey, and I think the reason why I'm on this journey of discovery in this subject is almost predetermined, as if there was something in the past that created this. This is one of the reasons why I'm so looking forward to this session with Jules in a couple of weeks, because I think that there is something locked away in me, and the fact that she offered to do this session with me for free and sort of pushed for it slightly, I think that she feels that there is something there. I think there is an intuitive level there in her, and she's going, actually, I want to do this session with you because I think there's something there. So I think it's going to be interesting.
I've done one. I can tell you,
and
I did it with someone that I don't know how they'll measure up to her as far as her abilities and how good she is at this. But I was told by this person that they were able to identify 2 of my past lives. One of them, I was a slave, and one of them, I was a shaman. I'll never forget that. It was just, and when I was I was put into a very, very relaxed state where I was still very consciously aware of my surroundings and such, but the way that information was like flowing into my head was very unique. The way that it felt and looked in like my mind's eye, you'll know and understand when you get into that state.
I'm looking forward to it.
Put you in.
It's very interesting. I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be weird because I have a feeling that it's going to be a very revealing, very personal experience. And then I'm going to share it with all you guys at home, which is going to be
I'm really curious to see how it goes.
I feel like I should almost get somebody else to edit it, but no, I won't. I'll do it myself.
Hi.
Who's going to sit there for 3 hours and watch the whole thing live on?
I would probably do it if I had to. You know me, man. I got my little tricks up my sleeve.
My point is, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to show that side, and I'm not afraid to be personal. We have a community here that watches every week, and that's do you know what? That's one of the most things that I love about the show, and that is what we get from doing this show live every week, Tom, is the fact that we've actually started to foster a really strong community, and that we see these names coming up in the chat every week. And do you know what?
It
makes
people
me smile. Too. Yeah, I know there's new people here again today, and every week the show just grows really cool. And grows and grows.
You know what it is, Digby? It's we're like us and the chat. I'm gonna put us all into just one group, right? We're all interested in these subjects, right? Like you have UFOs, and there's typically when someone is interested in that subject, they're usually interested in a lot of other subjects that branch off of that. Near-death experiences, psi phenomena, remote viewing, DMT. Like it's all. I don't want to use the word fringe, right? Like, but we'll call it fringe in a good way.
Sorry, I'm laughing.
No, I know. I saw that too. Biggest crock of bullshit I've seen today. We all love these topics and we like to discuss them. And it's fun to speculate. And I think I've always told people that I really, really, truly believe that, like, for like when I made the video about the Greys, right? There was a lot that I speculated upon in one of the areas of the video. Possibilities, like who are they? How do they function? This type of thing, right? Like, I think that's a good exercise for one's brain, right? Like it stretches your muscles. It makes you think critically about something and to come up with ideas. Now, whether we're right or wrong, we're not sure yet, right? Like there's a lot going on with this subject that it's hard for anybody to sit here and be like, I am positive that this is like. There are very few things in the UFO world that anybody can sit here and be like, yeah, this is it. This is the one. There's only a few for me. Like something is happening and these things exist. That I know. I've seen it with my eyes, right? Like I had that experience. But it's fascinating to think about the possibilities. It's fascinating to talk to other people about it. Like and yes, it is a form
agree.
of entertainment, but it's also healthy, in my opinion. You're not crazy. You're
Well, I
talking about
hope this is
UFOs. This isn't
entertaining.
1940 where like if you talked about UFOs, you were a kook. That is such stigmatic crap that we don't have any time for. There's no place for it.
I think this is a really good opportunity to play this clip that we've got from Diana Pasulka on Joe Rogan. Now, this is a nice clip. I got it off X. So we didn't put this clip together ourselves, and I would credit the person who I got it from, but I can't remember who they are. So, but what it does do in this clip is it ties in a few previous interviews together, and it shows a nice thread, and I think it follows on nicely from what we were just talking about. Also, it gives me a really good opportunity to go for a pee.
Yeah, hit that button.
Who piloted this craft?
As I've stated publicly already in my News Nation interview, biologics came with some of these recoveries. Yeah.
So now this is actually a whole field called biologics. So there's a real field now where people are doing these experiments in space and creating things that we can't create here.
Like what?
Medicine, certain types of metals, kind of like ceramic metals.
I mean, there's a piece of metal from a crash that I've seen, and I've seen the science on it, and it's atomically aligned, and it's layered in like 80 layers within just a few microns of purities of metal that aren't even in our solar system, and they think it needs to be made in an area where there's no gravity. So number one, it has to be made in space.
That was one of the speculations about the type of metals that were retrieved supposedly from these crash sites, that these whatever these metals were, they were layered, and that they could only be layered specifically the way they were done in a zero gravity environment.
Yeah, that's right.
And how much of this stuff do they have? Do they have full crafts?
I've never seen any full crafts.
What did you see when you went to the crash site?
So I saw two types of materials. One I can say looks like kind of metallic frog skin.
By Terry. Terry, Mr. Elizondo has called the UAP craft multiple times, made comments about not knowing who is piloting them. This seems like an assumption, at least without proof. Does this mean there is proof, let's call that evidence because proof in science doesn't exist, that these are craft with pilots?
Well, let's break it down. Craft. Craft is a noun. It's a physical object that allows the transportation of something from point A to point B. Whether it's a hovercraft, right, or a spacecraft or an aircraft, it's a vehicle. And so what defines a vehicle? Well, physical material. There's something to it, nuts and bolts. I've made it very clear already my opinion about my assertion that there is material that is related to this topic that has been recovered in the past. That's all I can say about that. But that's why I use the term craft. It's maybe not the best term, but to me, it's fairly accurate, at least until I can find another term that's more accurate.
Like the most common report I get from a military person that doesn't want to be known they had a close encounter is that if I hear this another time, if I got a nickel every time I heard this, I'd be rich, right? I know it sounds weird. I'm an engineer. I know it sounds weird. I don't have any other words to describe it. The skin of the craft seemed intelligent. Like there was an intelligence. It seemed alive. And it kills them to say that because there's like a lot of engineers, right?
Right.
So there's the idea that the actual machines themselves are so integrated that it is, in a sense, a biology, right? How we understand it, but it's still a craft that carries things.
Yeah, but there's an understanding of some that they do believe are interacting with us, and there's a variety in terms of there's variables.
Yeah, I talked to people who are familiar with the biological analysis and everything. So we have some idea, not a complete picture, because it's like, you're looking at it, it's like, well, I don't even understand the physiology at all. It's like, what the heck? It's like way different, right? So
potentially, have there been biological samples recovered from craft?
Let's rephrase that question. Have there potentially been biological samples recovered? Yes. I'm not going to expound anymore.
Right. So let's forget about the craft.
I want to get Lou on the show, man. I think your mic is still muted there, Digby. So I'm going to talk over you like a dick.
Hello. I'm back.
You know, I was telling you before we went live that like what this comment that was being made about the skin of the craft having this almost like living component to it is a really good way to describe the lights on the machine, the triangular machine that I saw when I was a kid that came right over my head. I mean, I've always described it as like living liquidy plasma. And at the same time, it's a fixed light on each corner. And I still don't think it properly does it justice. It's very strange. Very strange. And it's very hard to describe verbally. It's something that you really do have to kind of see with your own eyes to be like, oh, I get what you mean. It's, you know, God, what I wouldn't give for that thing to come back over my head and let me get like another look at it. It was the most beautifully mysterious thing I've ever seen. It was just.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but you know, when you look back over things that Bob Lazar has said in the past about the fact that there's no visible screens and things like this in the craft,
Right.
Be a way of connecting to them. So maybe there is a biologics element to the craft. Maybe
have you heard the quantum field thing?
Say again.
Have you heard the stories about there being a quantum field perhaps present that's being generated on the inside of the craft, and it's like the craft is a certain size, but then when you walk into the craft, it's like a giant space that would appear physically much larger than the craft itself. It'd be like if you walked into a one-story house and you were in a mansion.
You see, this is really interesting, right? Because this goes along with sci-fi and the threads that run through sci-fi that then apparently seem to come into the phenomenon, almost
or is it the other way around?
Almost as if that
maybe that's where they got their ideas from.
Yeah, that sci-fi is a way of disseminating information to the general public, so that when the information comes out, it's not so alien as we first thought that it might have been. I think that there is an element of that, and we know that already through Steven Spielberg and Close Encounters and movies like that. We know that there have been people consulting on these movies that have inside knowledge. So are certain elements of sci-fi culture actually correct? Perhaps. I mean, we're talking about a box that's larger on the inside than it is on the outside. I'm sorry,
and
but
it
who does that remind you of?
Works if you
who does that remind you of?
Yeah. There's a lot of different things that reminds me of. I've seen
that's Doctor Who.
It's Doctor Who for one. Doctor
Who. Here's my little.
I'm not as familiar with Doctor Who as I am, say, Star Wars.
Well, I served Doctor Who once. One of the original Doctor Whos. I used to run an Italian.
came to your pub?
Yeah, well, I used to run an Italian restaurant for a chain of restaurants called ASK or Ask in the UK, and Doctor Who used to be one of my regular customers. One of the original.
Oh, that's really cool.
Doctor Who, the one with the long, colourful scarf. He used to come in almost weekly and eat in the restaurant. He's a great guy, but certainly built for a different time. He wouldn't let his wife order. He would order for his wife and tell her what she was having.
It's like one of those things.
I think it was. Well, it was like I think she ordered a Coke, and he went, "Don't you mean diet, darling?"
Oh man, that reminds me.
Well, you know, people at different times. But the point is that you know there are people out there that are studying warp theory. We've discovered ways of transmitting matter through teleportation, even if it's only small cells. You know, there are threads that run through science fiction that seem to have some basis in reality. So is sci-fi or elements of sci-fi there to help disseminate information to mankind? Who knows? Tom Baker, Paul, you were right. Thank you. It was Tom Baker.
If consciousness is the fundamental property of the universe, right? consciousness is also what our minds are, quote unquote, made out of, right? Well, where do ideas come from? They come from the mind. So if ideas originate from the very focal point that is fundamental to everything in the universe, all of these things are already interrelated.
Yep.
Just by default, just by nature. Like, I've always wondered if anything that a person could imagine could technically be possible or built. Like, let's say I imagine this is a wacky thought experiment that I've come up with, but imagine a machine that looks like a printer, and that when you press the button, it like spits out fruit. Okay, wacky to think about. It's like, whoa, I'm like printing fruit. The fact
they're
that I
already
was
3D
able to
printing meat.
imagine it, right? But the fact that I was able to imagine it makes me wonder if like truly anything is possible. It's just a matter of figuring out how to do it or how to build it. Or like, just think of any technology that would be really interesting to have, but it doesn't exist yet. We haven't built it yet, but you can picture it in your mind's eye. Like that, I've always wondered, like, just that alone, like, if you can imagine it, it's actually something that can eventually be built simply because you thought of it, because consciousness is fundamental to everything. It's just this weird, wacky thing that I think about sometimes.
I completely agree, but it's not even just about consciousness. It's about thinking the fact that the very foundations of the people that we are today were born in the explosion of a dying star millennia ago. You know, there is rebirth, and whether you believe in reincarnation or not, the atoms, the molecules that we are made up of, once we die, will be formed and turned into something else. Therefore, anything in the universe is able to be created. That has ever or will ever be created. We are all one. We are all connected. The atoms and the molecules that we're made up of didn't come from Earth. They weren't solely, here. They came from hundreds of billions of light years away. So when we're talking about extraterrestrials and aliens, technically, if you look at it from that point of view, we all are. We didn't originate from here in whatever way you want to look at it. Whether you believe that we were seeded from another world and we're some sort of experimental world, or whatever you believe in, we all came from somewhere.
Do you know about this? Is this really, that ties in really well to what you're talking about, the Silurian hypothesis?
No, I don't know.
So the Silurian hypothesis it's a theoretical exercise. And what it does is it evaluates the capacity of contemporary science to uncover signs of an ancient, advanced, sophisticated civilization that may have existed, say, millions of years before our time. So the most likely indicators of that civilization would include, say, radioactive elements, carbon level anomalies, detectable fluctuations in temperature. But it's borrowed from a sentient race that in Doctor Who, they were known for creating, I believe they created an advanced society before the human race, like in the story. It's not to be confused with the geological period of the same name, but it comes from, but they named it after that race in Doctor Who, and that's how that ties in. But it's like our ability to basically, figure out if an advanced civilization existed, but it was like millions of years in the past. My video on Mars is a really good example of that idea. Go watch that on my YouTube channel if you're interested in things of that sort. I go
I'm
over
sure
the
Tom can put
idea.
a link up.
Yeah, I'll throw up a link real quick for that. There's a Dr. Brandenburg who believes that there is significant evidence to suggest that Mars is the wasteland that we find it as today, as a result of what he believes is nuclear warfare of some kind. And it's frightening. It's frightening to consider who would build, because it gets that detailed in my video. I even go into how big the bomb may have been. And it's crazy to think that anybody would build an atomic weapon or any weapon of any kind that would be that large. And it's like, well, how large are we talking? The Burj Khalifa. Like, imagine a fucking missile, a bomb, the size of the Burj Khalifa. And Brandenburg says the evidence is there to suggest that somebody built a bomb that big and dropped it on Mars and fucking destroyed everything.
Well, there is evidence, isn't there,
move.
in the atmosphere, the Martian atmosphere? There's evidence that we have now that it actually seems like Mars is there as a result of an atomic weapon. We can actually measure that. And ironically, Elon Musk's plan to give Mars atmosphere again, because we all know that Elon wants to go to Mars and colonize Mars, is by setting off another nuclear war, another nuclear weapon. So,
I wonder if we'll ever terraform Mars. I think about that pretty often. I think we will eventually make it habitable.
I don't think actually the idea of terraforming is actually that complicated. It's about setting off a chemical chain of reactions to create an atmosphere again. And I don't think actually that sounds complicated, but I don't actually think it's as complicated as we think it is. And
maybe not.
We'll see. Elon's the man
I do
for
think
that.
we need to study Mars in its current form first. I think we need to send astronauts there that need to have their eyes there and their feet on the ground to have that human sense, that human touch that needs to be there. They need to.
Do you not think
they need
that
to
we're
study
already
like
there?
Sidonia and such. I don't know. I know there's a lot of rumors in the UFO community that there have already been manned missions to Mars, but I don't really have anything good to go off of for that, right? Like that is some shit that really is like very much hearsay that I haven't found any good credible evidence for. Now, I'm not saying like, has there been a secret space program? I would bet that is yes, absolutely. But have they sent human beings to Mars? I don't know. I lean in the direction of I don't think so.
I think there's
maybe
an
they did.
awful. I think we're playing more of a part out there than we are currently led to believe.
It wouldn't surprise me. I'll say that it would not surprise me one bit. I very much come from the school of thought in this subject that you would find Richard Dolan in. Like anytime that I have studied the idea of a secret space program, I've gone to Dolan's work. Are we descendants of Martians? Yeah, that's a popular theory out there too, that maybe that nuclear disaster happened and they built like an ark and sent their descendants here. It's possible. Yeah, it's very possible. How would we know, right? Like we weren't around. I think it's silly when people shoot these ideas down and call them hogwash without really giving it any thought. That's what kind of irritates me, is like we should be able to explore these ideas because there's good evidence for a lot of things that people want to shoo away and turn their heads to, but ultimately
Sandy's talking about the moon.
Evidence.
I love talking about the moon, Sandy.
The moon's weird because, obviously you only see one side of it. This is what blows my mind about the moon, though. And people have heard this a million times, but really think about this for a second. The Earth is this big. The moon is this big, right? And then millions of miles out in the distance is something so much larger, that being the sun. And yet, there is a point in time where the moon can cross in front of the sun
and eclipse it.
And they fit. But not just that. There's someone down here, us, to watch it. Do you realize the math behind that? Like, if we were to send a probe out into the universe to look for another world where there's an advanced civilization or an intelligent civilization that's down there, to see that, the math is absurd for the chances of that just happening. I'm not saying the moon's fake, or I don't know. The moon appears to be hollow, though, which is really weird.
Have you seen Moonrise?
Yeah, I've seen.
I love that.
Shit is outrageous. But I do like the direction that it goes in. I like how it ends because I was like, oh,
yeah,
that's
I really love that movie. I think
there are
that
African
movie,
tribes I talked about. Yeah, you should
Time
go
Before
see
the
it. You mean
was it?
Moonfall?
Moonfall, yeah, sorry, Moonrise, Moonfall, whatever. Yeah, Moonfall, yeah, it was brilliant. If you haven't seen the movie, do watch it. It's got almost a beautiful
corny.
balance between sci-fi and comedy, and there isn't too much comedy on it.
Wild.
There's just comic
It's
relief.
a fun one. That's a fun one
It
to
is.
sit down and just eat popcorn.
But there's elements to that I think is true. There was talks of the final Apollo mission that was never talked about, where they actually went to the moon and they set off seismic charges and they did it, and the moon rang like a bell. And
that's confirmed. That really did happen.
Yeah,
it did.
And
yes, you can go and look at the measurements.
Yeah, so the moon's a weird one, as you said, Tom. There are African tribes that talk about a time before the moon was there.
Yes,
and there's records of this, and it just goes back to talking
very
about how
strange.
much of our history we don't actually really know. But that's a much longer conversation than we have time for this evening, I think.
Definitely.
Look, I think we should move on to our last bit. Tom, this is a friend of yours. I believe you've had contact with this artist. I reached out to him today because I saw a track that he had released on, a clip of a track that's coming out soon that he had released on X earlier on today. He is a future guest of the show. I asked him if he wanted to come on this evening to talk about his new single that he's releasing, but he didn't have time, but he is more than willing to come on any other week. So, Tom, if you would like to introduce your friend, and then I will play his new single.
Yeah, some of you guys from X will know him. Raphael, also known as Skits. He's a hip-hop artist. He raps and such. And look, I know that's not everybody's cup of tea, but he is such a cool guy to talk to. And he's funny. Really genuine, really warm, passionate guy. He's into everything that we're all into here. He's eventually going to be on the show. We're going to have conversations about that. He's very interested in like universal consciousness and such. So I think he's really going to enjoy the work that you and I are embarking on, Digby. But he's working on a track, and we just wanted to, play the clip that he gave us because we like shouting out our friends, obviously. And he, as I can tell you just from my perspective as a musician, that he knows his way around the studio. And that's really cool. It takes a lot of training and effort, learning and such to really master those types of things, no matter what genre of music you're working on. And I can tell that he definitely knows his stuff, which is really cool. Yeah, why don't you play the clip?
I'm talking literal lyrics that'll help you release any lingering feelings that ain't giving you peace. I'm here for you. Listen, please try to believe that we're stardust, here to receive what we perceive to be true. And the visions we see within the dreams that we call life, even though things ain't what it seems. It's a beautiful ride disguised as a disease, wrapped in an enigma, packed in a routine. So live your life and fill a villa with some cream, stacking money to the ceiling like a pillar for the team.
Longer than time has existed, I help create everything seen with our eyes. We all expand beyond the words that's been written, and all the books that we hold dear in our lives.
I skydive with rhymes to provide the culture with the codes that unlock all the doors.
I love it.
It's actually really catchy, man. Like, I'm
really
I'm not the biggest rap fan in the entire world, but there is rap.
No, but I like
do
that.
But that's got some. It's not your typical radio rap where it's all mumble and they're just talking about chains and money and hoes and whatnot. And it's just the same shit over and over again. Like, there's obviously like meaning behind his lyrics, which is really cool to see. And Skits is just an awesome dude.
It's like Astral's music. The phenomena is running through it, and that's what it's about, and it's about waking up and about realizing what's going on. And if you actually, listen to the words in the track there, the phenomena is literally running through it. He posted it, but hashtag UFOX,
I'm working on a little, a beat for Astral and Skits to actually like rap over.
Oh,
slowly but
nice.
surely. But I sent Astro a little clip of what I was working on, and it was something that we just wanted to do for fun. And one day I was in FL Studio just kind of messing around, and I made something kind of cool, and I'm like, yeah, I could like actually like envision them messing around with that. So I sent it to Astro. I have to send it over to Skits too, but Astro really liked the percussive elements and stuff because I haven't mixed it or done anything to it yet. It's very bare bones, but it's cool. It's kind of trap and sort of dubsteppy here and there because like I chop the synths all crazy, and it just again, and it's just fun to be able to work with people and to just make things because it's awesome. Honestly, that's all. It's fun.
It's all about making things, though, isn't it? I think that's why I love what I'm doing now, is because every day that I work now, I get to create something. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're here, is to create and to make things to leave behind. And yeah, I think if you can do something that's creative, I think all the power to you.
It's my lifeblood, man. Creativity is the gift that the universe gave me from birth, I guess. I've always been able to make things, and it feels good when you're done, right? Feels good to do it. Feels good to look at it when you're done with it. But I will tell you, this past week has been very challenging in that area, man. Like I've never gotten sick where it's like really interfered with my creativity like that. Like I've had the flu and like was still like I had like a really high temperature, but was still laying in bed like playing my guitar. Okay. Like 3 days ago, it was at its worst. And it felt I was so disinterested in like everything that even putting on like a mindless YouTube video just to like relax or whatever, I didn't even feel like doing that. I just laid there. I just literally laid there and was like, everything is boring right now. Nothing is interesting. It was so weird. And it's I gotta be honest, when this illness finally just completely fades away and I feel 100% back to normal, I never want to feel that shit ever again in my life. Like it is worse. It's like it's like imagine the absolute worst writer's block you've ever had in your life. That's what that was like. It was like being crushed by the block. It was so weird. I wouldn't wish it on anybody that's creative. Like I couldn't get any enjoyment out of anything. Drawing, sketching, playing music, nothing. I just couldn't do. It's like you were saying, it's like brain fog, but it's so intrusive, and it's just like, go away. Like I'm trying to get stuff done, and I'm like trying to force myself through it, but it's getting better each day. It's getting a little better, a little better, a little bit. So I'm just trying to be as patient as I can, but I still don't feel 100%. I'm at like 80. So I'll get there though. But I'm still having like hot flashes and shit. It's weird.
I'm glad to have the 80% of you this evening that we do have. I think we should end the show with a little laugh from our friend Jaime Muson. And
there is another button you have to.
We'll do that
after Jaime.
So this is Jaime Muson.
I want to tell you as an exclusive for this program that giants have also been found in Peru, but in this case, bodies.
Yeah. Giant bodies.
That is all I'm going to say, because much more is coming, and we are getting closer to the truth. And fortunately, now civil society has the evidence, governments do not. And that is why it will finally come to light.
Thanks for that, Jaime. So they
will come to light that they built a giant out of leftover KFC bones and llama wieners or something.
Hey, well, the jury is out on the Nazca mummies, and we know.
I hope one of them comes to life,
all the information
and wrings his neck.
Universities all around the world, so on and so on. But yeah, no, they've got giants now, not mummies, actual bodies. So I can't wait to see that. I won't hold my breath.
Yeah, don't, because you'll die.
Yeah.
You'll die. You should hit the you should hit that final good old button that we have there.
Yeah, I know. I've just got to find where it is. Oh, there it is.
Speculation Station.
We're here. We've arrived. Station of
Now, have you got a speculation station for this week?
I don't know, do you?
I don't know. You're going to put me on the spot. We really should plan these things. We like to keep things.
That's kind of the
loosey-goosey.
fun of this, though. I purposefully try not to think about this until the moment happens, because then it's kind of organic and some, you know what I mean? I try to be fun about it. I can always come up with one, though.
Oh no, maybe I should. It's probably my turn. Okay, so talking to Thomas earlier, and one of the key points that he made is that they've set up this institute to discover and to investigate crash retrievals. And one of the points he put is just because the fact that we have set this up, we believe that we will find something. Now that calls into mind the idea that if you think hard enough and you want something enough, that you can create it, you can manifest it. So we're talking about manifestation. So my question to all of you is, what do you feel about manifestation? And do you think that if you want something enough, and that if you can picture it in your mind's eye enough, can you really, truly create the world that you want to live in? Can you influence your life through manifestation and better your life and the life of the ones that you love around you through putting a thought out into the universe and hoping that it's answered?
I like that. There's a lot of positivity associated with that, which is always nice.
I believe it. I believe in
I've seen
manifestation.
it.
I
I
think
have seen
I'm
it.
the result of it. I think you are the result of it. I think that this show is a result of it. And the way that it grows every week, we reach a new audience, because you and I, Tom, we want nothing more. Literally, I know both of us at the moment want nothing more than for this show to succeed. And every week I see proof that it is.
Yeah, it means a lot to see the community growing around the show and having people just, even the smallest compliment, I mean, they hold so much weight. Like just one person being like, I really like your show. It's like just that. Just hearing that alone is really
There's been several people today in the chat, Tom, that have come and said, I've stumbled across your show this evening, and I'm so glad I have. What an amazing show it is. It really means the world to us. But, my speculation station isn't an advert for our show, but I'm just saying that if you want something enough and you can envisage it, I do believe that you can manifest it. And that ties in with universal consciousness. If everything is connected, if there is a consciousness element to everything, then you are connected to everything around you. Every single thing, whether it be
there's
this
new
glass
data on this
or this lamp over
physics
here
portfolio.
or whatever, is if you are connected to universal consciousness, and every single thing that exists in the universe has a consciousness element to it, do we have the ability to influence it and control it? And if we do, then we have the ability to manifest. So maybe that's exactly what manifestation is actually our untapped potential in our mind, in our mind's eye, to control and influence things that are around us. And maybe that's what
Positive thinking is very powerful. I'm sure we've heard it from our parents and people that have shown us love in our lives. Just think positive, think positive. Really take that statement to heart, though. Like, as I get older, the more that statement actually has a lot more weight to it. And it has a much deeper meaning to me now. As simple as it is, it could just be 2 words, think positively. But you'd be surprised what that can do for you, and especially in difficult times. Like, just trying to focus your thoughts on the positive potential outcomes instead of the negatives. Yeah, sometimes it takes some work because you're in the midst of something that's really challenging or traumatic or sad. But I promise you, like, if you do that, just come back to me and we'll talk about it after you go and try this out in your life. From now until our next show next Sunday, I want to challenge everybody that's watching right now to do this. When you find yourself thinking negatively, stop yourself and literally change what you're thinking about. Doesn't mean you have to, disregard all of your responsibilities and things like that. But if you're thinking about something that maybe that you're worried about, instead of thinking about those negative outcomes, catch yourself and switch to thinking about, well, I know I'm worried, but what if it goes this way, which would be really positive? Do that for a week. Do it as a brain exercise. Force yourself to think positively when you find yourself thinking negatively, and you would be surprised what that might do for you. I've done
I'm
this.
going to interrupt you now for words of wisdom from my wife, who has corrected it, by the way. She didn't mean to put can't, she meant to put can. You can see pretty much any situation in one way or another, negatively or positively, problem-focused or solution-focused. That's
Right,
my wife,
right.
everybody. And she is absolutely right.
That's very true.
But there are two sides to this, though. There is toxic positivity and there's toxic negativity. And there are extremes here because you can't just look at life and go, oh, everything will be fine. Everything is fine, because sometimes it isn't. And sometimes you need to appreciate a negative experience and take it in and learn from it. Everything can't just be, daffodils and roses just because you want to see it that way. That's not what we're saying. But, take life for what it is. And when you have negative situations, just enable yourself to be in a position where you are allowing yourself to learn from it or look from that situation and go, that's what I needed to take from this situation. And I am better because I've experienced that situation and I've learned from it. And yeah, that's my 5 P's worth.
I'll say this too, because
and action is required. Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
no, it's because Zio makes a good point, a dear friend. Lying about your situation at every turn isn't going to manifest anything. So it's not about trying to convince yourself that, a situation is more negative or less negative. It's all about perspective. Like, you don't have to change the fact of the situation, but it's like trying to see the silver. It's trying to see the silver lining, or you know what I mean? Trying to, like, how can I grow from this? Like, let's say you get into some sort of trouble, right? Like, maybe you got in trouble in school or you got arrested, whatever it may be. Like, how can you take that situation too and turn it into a positive? Is it a learning experience? Is it something that's meant to show you how to proceed the next time you're in a similar situation? There's always a good way to look at things, right? I'm that's the challenge of it. That's why I'm telling people for the next week, if you're all bummed out and you're just thinking negatively, stop yourself from doing that and try to think positively to the best of your ability and watch what happens.
But do you know what? Thinking negatively sometimes is fine. I think it enables us to get some stuff out of our system.
Absolutely.
Once you've done that, because sometimes I feel really shit, and sometimes I just actually really
do right now.
Be allowed to feel shit, and you can come out the other side of it. But when you come out the other side of it, just ask yourself the question: why did I go through that? Why did I need to go through that? And what have I learned going through it?
But that's my point. That's exactly my point.
That's growth. That's coming out the other side and not being a victim to your circumstances. That's coming out the other side and going, well, I learned this from this and I went through it and I appreciate what I went through. How do I stop myself from going through that again? Or how do I grow from this? How do I make sure that I don't make the same mistake again? Katie and I and my kids and the dogs, we're all on this journey at the moment around the world. And we've been to some places that we've loved. We've been to some places that have had some difficulties. And, where we are at the moment, it's also got its challenges. And we're looking forward to moving to the next place. And it's just a case of going, okay, so why did we come here? Why were we led here? And why did we need to experience what we have experienced? And what do we learn from it? And as long as you can go through life with that attitude, I think that retrospectively, you can make sure that you don't regret anything that you have experienced in your life, just as long as you have the power, the control, and the wisdom in yourself to make sure that you learn from that experience and you don't repeat it.
Yo, I'm listening to all of that and like taking it in, and it's really powerful and it's wise words. And then I just look over and see this shit from Paul, man.
Paul. Katie, Digby thinks he was Hercules in a past life. Just FYI, he tackles lions in Morocco.
Oh my
Paul,
god!
I love you. You are such a shit stirrer.
Well, if you were Hercules, then I guess I was like
Sandy at Paul. I
Hades
agree.
or
Hello,
something.
at Katie. You're a brave woman.
You're a brave woman.
I know. Oh my god.
Listen. If you want to tackle lions, be my guest.
Oh no, we found out it wasn't a lion.
Not doing
It
it.
was a hyena, by the way, just so you know.
I'm not tackling one of those either. I just want to make it very clear I am not tackling any hyenas or lions. Speaking of lions and tackling,
lions and tigers and
it's gonna
bears.
be, it's gonna be a fun day of NFL football today because we will find out who is going to the Super Bowl. Tonight's a big night. Although my team did not make the playoffs this year, the New York Giants. That's okay. What's interesting though is that the Lions hadn't won a playoff game.
Not the Jaime
since I was
Muson
like
Giants.
3. No, not my Giants are better. Damn it.
Your Giants are factual, not fictional.
Correct. That too. The Lions hadn't won a playoff game. And it was amazing to hear this. They hadn't won a playoff game since I was like 3 years old. Like it had been that long. Then they won now they're one playoff win away from going to the Super Bowl. They haven't won an NFL championship since like the 50s. So I just want to say good luck to anybody out there that's watching that is a Detroit Lions fan, because I can only imagine what that must feel like to like be invested in a team that hasn't won anything like in your entire lifetime and finally be like that close. That must be a really exciting and nerve-wracking feeling at the same time.
It's a bit like being English and being a Sheffield Wednesday fan, but yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, it's just that. So it's gonna be a fun day of me sitting here and just making sure that I'm staying hydrated. We're gonna watch some football, be in the Discord chat. For most of
we
the
may
day.
soon find out who Digby was in a past life. I'm more interested in finding out who I am in this life, because at the moment that's still a bit of a confusion.
Still figure that out. Yeah, me too. I was gonna say I haven't quite gotten to that part yet, right? Let's not skip steps. Digby's been fun, man.
Tell you, I know, but I can tell you, I am seriously pumped for this session with Jules. I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm really.
Well, I'm glad that she offered that to you.
Yeah, me too. And I promise everybody that's watching, whatever comes out of the session, good or bad, I'm not afraid to show it to the public. So
I would have done it too. So, just I don't mind being a guinea pig for those types of situations. Yeah.
Tom can be the next guinea.
Try to clear out all my dark cobwebs and whatnot.
Yeah. Sandy, please have Paul back on the show. We will. We love Paul.
Yeah, we do got to get Paul.
What you don't know is actually, you guys, me and Tom speak to Paul every day. We have our own little private little WhatsApp group.
Right.
Going on.
Paul is essentially
very special to us.
A part of this show at this point. Like he's actually helped us with certain things in the background, which we are obviously very grateful for.
He's our emotional support blanket. He's he's there to give us the backup in the background every week.
That's true. Definitely true. And we have our fun conversations
and Sandy, we love you too. You and Paul are literally like the die-hard fans here every single week. I mean, if one of you didn't turn up one week, we would literally be calling the local police department to make sure they can go and check on you.
I would be worried. Like if we did an episode and neither of them were here or one of them wasn't here, I would be like, I hope they're all right, because they're always here. Which means a lot to us to see people week after week like that. It's nice. It's really nice. It makes you feel like you have friends, even at a distance, which
you got a friend.
A really nice thing to have with people, man. You know, it is. It really is. Like sometimes I can be a very lonely, introverted person, but I do know that I got my podcast family. I have my family on X. You know,
and you got me, buddy.
And I got you and Paul.
There aren't many days that Tom doesn't wake up to a message that I sent him when I wake up in the morning. Bearing in mind, I'm 6 hours ahead of you, so you're 6 hours behind me. So Tom wakes up from a daily message from me going, "Have you done this? Should we do this?" Yeah.
That is true. And then once you've gone to bed and it's like later in the day for me, sometimes you'll find things from me as well. Like, did you see this clip? Here's a link to this thing. Did you hear about the thingamajig? It's always like that, right?
We should do a space soon as well, man. Because
I mean, I'm always in the RV spaces with Astro and such. But I have done my own, obviously, too. I want to try to, like, I don't know. I've been trying to think of something different. Like, how can we take a space and maybe spice up the situation a little bit? You know what I mean? Like, do something a little different. I'm always trying to come up with something like that. I have some ideas, but it's nice to be able to talk to people like that.
What about if when I did my regression session, I had that on a space just playing? Nobody could speak, obviously. You just have to be able to listen, but that might be quite interesting. So if anybody wanted to listen into the whole thing, they could. Just have my phone next to me on a space.
That would be kind of cool. You know what I was going to do one time? Well, not that I was going to, but I thought about it. I wanted to live stream me using my VR headset, my Valve Index, and I was going to go into like a VR chat world under the influence of DMT. It was some wacky idea that I thought about, and then I was like, you know, we're not going to do that.
Coming soon to the Unidentified Anomalous podcast, Digby and Tom will be doing DMT live on the show.
Live, yeah. Now, I've seen somebody do DMT live on YouTube before, but it's like you're not, as an audience, you're not really going to get much out of it until they come out of it and start talking about it, though. Like, in the middle of it is just, it's not as interesting until they've snapped out of that state. But
either way, look, it's my wife has just messaged me and said, "Are you winding up now?" Because she's tired. So I'm going to leave it there.
I think that's fair. She's the captain of the ship.
Yeah, it's fair. It's 2 hours. We've done over 2 hours. It's all good. It's been a pleasure, Tom, as always. Thank you to Thomas who came on the show earlier on today. It's been a great show, great audience, as always. Peace and love to you all, and we will see you same time, same place next week.
Take care, everybody.